The games, we will not be champion. If we win, we could be still there. Because we cannot forget, we are 6 points behind Arsenal. A team like he dropped few points during the season and playing one game a week with a lot of time for recovery, analyze and prepare the games. That will be so difficult to drop points. So that's why you have to be there as much as possible.
Okay, well, similarly to Manchester City, Arsenal, also in the title race, face a team that are fighting for survival. They go to West Ham on Sunday. So let's hear from Mikel Arteta, but first, David Moyes.
Hi, Emma.
So just starting with team news, any updates?
Well, we're only just back really from Belgium, so we're still getting ourselves together, but hopefully everybody's okay. The only news is that Gianluca Scamacca is due to have an operation on his knee tomorrow, so we'll be missing him.
Because you're playing league leaders Arsenal this weekend, do you think there's less expectation to get a result, and do you think that might help?
I don't know if there's less expectation. Not from me, that's for sure. The expectation is for me, every team I put out is to win, and we'll put out a team which hopefully we can try and beat Arsenal. So that's part of it. Last year we challenged a lot of the so-called top teams and gave them really good games. Some we beat, some we didn't. So we'll try and do the same against Arsenal.
Hello, Mikel.
Hello.
Thank you for your time. Can we have any injury updates, please, particularly William and Eddie?
William is still not available. He's progressing well, and we are hopeful that we're going to have him available in the next few weeks, but we have to see. And Eddie's back. Eddie's fully fit now, and he's back.
So he's available for selection?
Yes.
A lot of the players were seen to be very, very upset by that late goal that Liverpool scored. Are you pleased that they're that upset?
Yeah, we should be. When you concede in the last few minutes, you have to be upset because we wanted to win the game. But then as well, we have to be realistic, and we have to accept that we have an exceptional period in the first half where we should have killed the game, but the reality is in the second half we have really tough moments that we have to dig in, and we should have conceded a few goals as well. So that was the game.
The boffins at Opta have used percentages, wizardry, to work out the possibility of the probability of who's going to win the Premier League, and they say it's Man City.
Well, when you asked them at the start of the season, for sure it was like this, so nothing has changed.
Just continuing on where you are, if you go back to the beginning of this season, did you envision, with 2.5 years under your belt with Arsenal, that with 8 games to go in this campaign you would be fighting for the title?
Yes.
Really?
You go day by day, honestly. There is so much that happens every single day, every month in a football club that you cannot really look. Obviously, the aim and the moment that I took the job, it was to bring that club back to where it belongs, and is fighting and being around every single trophy that is possible at the highest level. And that's what we are trying to do.
You've been successful on the road in London derbies this season. West Ham at the weekend, they're fighting for survival, just 3 points above the relegation zone. What kind of game are you expecting, and are you surprised at all by where they are on the table?
Very difficult game. We know we've been there a few times, and we always find really tricky and difficult games. I know David really well and how he's going to prepare the game as well, and we are ready. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be another big derby for us, and we're going to have to be at our best to win it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Go to Ian from TalkSport.
Hi Mikel, how are you?
Very good.
You mentioned there you know David Moyes really well. Can you just talk about the respect you have for him? Because obviously you played for him at Everton. You signed for him now.
I think more than respect, I think it's admiration. I love playing under him. I would go through a brick wall for him when he was my manager. I think everybody would in that squad. Really good coach, exceptional and managing the group and dealing with the individuals, and then a very special person, a really special human being, very trustworthy, and a man who honors his word, and he always did it, and someone that I learned a lot from.
People always ask you what you learned from Pep Guardiola, and you must have learned loads under him. Was there things you learned in particular off of David?
Yeah, he saw things in me that I didn't know, and he asked me to play in positions that I never played in my life. The way he challenged me, but at the same time the way he gave me support, love and care, it was the right balance, and it's what I needed, and he got the best out of me. So
Well, Mikel Arteta clearly has huge respect for David Moyes, saying he'll run through a brick wall for him. That's exactly what you want to hear one of your former players saying, isn't it?
Well, it is, but his record against Moyes has been outstanding. So it's his Arsenal team that's been running through brick walls for him against West Ham. I expect them to win. West Ham's confidence is still a little bit fragile. They did get the draw in midweek against Ghent, but I was alarmed at the fact that they allowed Ghent to get back into the match, a match that I fully expected them to win and continue that superb record they've got in the European Conference League. As far as Arsenal are concerned, they want to get back into a winning vein of form. 6 victories in a row before last weekend at Liverpool. I don't read too much into that because Liverpool have been outstanding in front of their own fans so far this season. It's been away from home that they've been shocking. I expect Arsenal to repeat the 2-1 victory from last season at the London Stadium.
Well, let's touch on that result at Anfield last week for Arsenal, dropping points, Sesh, but you actually made your Premier League debut at Anfield, didn't you, for Fulham all those years ago? So you know what it's like to play there. Do you actually see that point for Arsenal as a good point?
I think before the game, if you were playing at Anfield, you would take a point because it's such a hostile crowd, massive fan base, so you would probably take a point. But I think the nature of the game, having been 2-0 up and then to drop the 2 points, it'll probably feel like 2 points dropped. But for any player playing at Anfield, I think the atmosphere is outstanding. You know, it's a place where you can't hide and can't go missing. Unfortunately for Arsenal, they just slipped up at the end, lost a little bit of concentration and then dropped a couple of points. They'll be disappointed with the marking in the box. They'll be disappointed with the nature of that defeat, considering the vein of form.
He'll be disappointed with that penalty, won't he, again?
Yeah, it's unlike him.
But see, what we're seeing here underlines what Zesh is saying, because actually Arsenal should have lost this game. That penalty was so early in the game that this could well have been the winning goal rather than the equalising goal. I have to say, Aaron Ramsdale, who's in a heap in the goal there. I was at the Arsenal press conference today and Arteta was saying that Aaron has been outstanding and he's never, ever failed to justify the investment in him. £24 million plus £6 million in add-ons that they paid for him. He'd been relegated twice, remember, once with Chesterfield, once with Sheffield United, and yet he has been simply magnificent and been a key contributor in that run of form just there. It's actually 6 wins in a row before Liverpool last weekend. But they've got, I think it's the 3rd best defensive record in the Premier League. That's partly because Ramsdale's such a good organiser. You know better than me how good, how important a goalkeeper that can organise his defence is.
100%. I remember from my early days at Fulham with Edwin van der Sar in goal, who'd be non-stop in your ear. That just gives you confidence to know that you can never switch off.
What's he saying?
He's saying everything to keep you concentrated. So get out the box, stop the cross, left shoulder, right shoulder, get tighter, whatever it is to keep you concentrated. And if he goes quiet, then you can switch off. So I think it's really good to have keepers that are vocal the whole game. And then later on, Mark Crossley was also outstanding at that. So I think Ramsdale as a communicator really, really helps.
Can I tell you, have we got time for a quick story?
Yeah, you
Right, so I went and I watched Tuchel's Chelsea against Wolves, his very first game. And it was during COVID, so you could hear everything from the pitch, right?
That was really interesting, wasn't it?
Because the goalkeeper was Kepa, the right back was Azpilicueta, the centre half was, I want to say, Thiago Silva, and alongside him was Rudiger. And on the at left back, it was Ben Chilwell. So afterwards, we grabbed Chilwell and we say, look, all of you have different nationalities, you know. How do you communicate? He says, in football, there's only one language. And it's so true. Everyone understands something. I mean, even if somebody is, even if you're from different countries and whatever else, there are certain things that all of you come to understand in a good, well-organised defence.
The modern game has changed a little bit. People are throwing out new terminology, but man on, squeeze, get up, get out. Foreign players picked that up very, very quickly, you know, especially if you're in a back 4 or back 5. Simple, clear, concise information, you pick it up quickly. And if you don't, if you played with a player of a certain type, then you soon find out what that means.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal's away record in the Premier League has been sensational, which isn't good reading for West Ham in their fight for survival. How do you see this playing out for the Hammers?
Well, as I say, they're in better form. They're scoring goals right now. They've had wins in each of their last 2 Premier League games before midweek when they drew in the Europa Conference League. It's weird because being at home, the fans will expect them to go out and play and they'll expect them to take the game to Arsenal. But I think that could well leave them exposed. You look at the defeats against Brighton and Newcastle, two accomplished sides that were able to pour into the spaces that were left by David Moyes' team. So I expect them to keep this quite tight. Moyes is a defensively minded manager. If you were playing, what would you expect?
Yeah, pretty similar. I think they have to be, to get the balance right, it's a home game. You want to be on the front foot. You want to get the crowd off their seats, but also you're up against a very, very good side. Now, you don't want to sink too deep, but I fear if they go too high too early, they'll be exposed at the back. Arsenal got willing runners that could really exploit the spaces. So I think you've got to be pragmatic, but also brave when those moments come to attack. The one thing I do think, but the one thing I do think, no Saliba. Saliba's a real leader at the heart of the Arsenal defence. Rob Holding, sometimes he is prone to the odd lapse in concentration, and I think that's what they might do. Maybe put Antonio on to bulldoze him, and maybe Jared Bowen to take the game to Zinchenko. He was the one who failed to stop the cross in the game against Liverpool, where they were able to equalise. So maybe that might well be West Ham's best point of attack.
After back-to-back European finishes in the previous 2 seasons, have you been surprised to see West Ham where they are this season, especially after the way they invested in the summer?
Yeah, very surprised, because obviously Moyes has got a very good backroom team as well, coaches, experienced coaches. So they're probably scratching their heads a little bit as to what's going on. But that can happen in football. But I think they've got a good dressing room. I think Declan Rice, Antonio, core of players that have been there and in the good times, so they'll know what it means to the club and the fans to get back to that form. But 100% it's been a surprise.